Chicago is a wonderful place full of awesome sights, great food, beautiful people. There's something that I want to share with you about that beauty. An organization which is known as Bisexual Queer Alliance Chicago was founded here in Chicago by Mikey Aboza and Edna Grum. I'm here where it all started, Center on Halstead. My name's Auggie Rodriguez. I'm the creator of this documentary and current president of the board of directors here at Bisexual Queer Alliance Chicago. And in the 2 years that I've been working on this project, this was a project first with our 10-year anniversary in mind. And during that, 2020 happened. So we were in the midst of a pandemic, and you're going to see a lot of Zoom interviews conducted that way, along with the evolution of where the organization is today as we celebrate our 12-year anniversary. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see. Without further ado, I present to you
first came out bisexual, Noel had his meetups. And when I thought it was a meetup, I thought it was all sex. So I put on my Get Lucky outfit and I went to Noel's house. And I was like, this is gonna be hot. And I knocked on his door and he goes, welcome. There was no wild party going on. And he said, why don't you just come in? And there was people sitting at the dinner table just socializing. I'm like, do bisexuals do this? And that's how I met Noel.
Well, that's great that you got some of that history because, it gets sort of lost. It's starting to be ancient history at this point. And I'm glad that Ed sort of remembered. But at the end of the day, that's probably my biggest contribution to Bqac was starting the meetup group before Bqac and, establishing a forum where, the bi community could meet. And that's where Ed came in, and that's where, Brother Michael, as he was known at the time, I'm not sure if he goes by Mikey or Michael now, but that was, that was a great forum for us to all sort of get to know each other and get excited and meet each other and get excited about bi community. And based on that enthusiasm, through the meetup and through the parade and through some of the stuff on Center and Halstead, had some momentum and some real excitement about the bi community. And that's when, Brother Michael had the idea and then brought in Ed and they started Bqac. And so, I wasn't on the original boards for several years actually. But I was foundational and kind of, getting a lot of the folks that were on the original board were all sort of in the meetup, and it was really just one big bi community, right? And they were taking it to the next level and trying to establish a nonprofit and what you need to do. So that's probably the most important role that I played.
I had to do something. Because Adrienne had her thing by social network, Noel had his thing, and Ed was busy in office work stuff. So I went to the Center in Halstead, and on top of the elevators, it said, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community center. And I asked the front desk, do you have a bisexual program? And the person behind the desk looked both ways like she was crossing the street. She goes, no, we don't have one. I said, then why is the word bisexual up on the elevator? Oh, because it helps us fill our quotas. So I got my foot in the door and I became a volunteer. Sometimes you got to kiss ass. So I'm volunteering and being nice, and I'm like, oh. And then I met somebody who still works there, and I won't mention their name out of respect. I met them at a fundraiser at a bar, and I said, well, since I'm a volunteer, I'd like to be the first bi liaison. And I was told, since non-for-profits have to have a need, and there's no bisexuals, we don't need a bisexual program. My heart broke. And I thought of Adrian, I thought of Noel, I thought of Ed.
First, I want to say congratulations to Bqac for making it 10 years. That's awesome. You know, it warms my heart to see that after all these years, the club is still around. I started the way it happened. I don't know if you want to know that now, but so like the way it happened was it started in 2009 when I was the bisexual liaison to some LGBT health summit that was being held here in Chicago, and then I was looking for volunteers to help with summit, and that's when I met Michael, and him and hit it off well. We were bad together. We would be laughing whole fucking like everyone every time you looked at us, we were just cracking jokes, and we were always laughing. So then we started talking, and that I found out about the bisexual meet with Noel started. So I reached out to them, to that group, if people wanted to volunteer, and that's how I also met Noel. Then after, so the summit was a huge success. It was my first time actually. In 2009 was when I reclaimed my bisexuality. Groups, me and Michael would, hang out a lot and talk, and we would go to the groups, and then him and I, because after the summit, we were like so energized to create something bigger and better in Chicago. And, and we talked about how we wanted to do more activism work, because the meetup group was more of just more of a social aspect where people would just meet up and talk. And, me and Michael were always talking about how, we want to have a more activism role, in the bisexual community. So then one day he called up and he's like, hey, what do you think about, I had this idea, and let's start a bi activism group in Chicago. And like I was like all over it. I'm like, hell yeah. So then we started laying the groundwork, and we started having meetings at the Center on Halsted, because he was also the first bisexual liaison at the Center on Halsted.
Mm.
So he was able to get us in there to have our meetings in there, and there was a lot of people coming to the meetings from the meetup group. And then again, we would post out in social media, and which back then was just Facebook, and also in the meetup groups. So people started coming, and they all had that taste for justice for the bi community that both me and Michael had, and so there was long discussions of how would the group look, what would be, because we also didn't want to lose the social aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like, for me, I always said that Noel was like the father of the group, because it was him who originally started bringing everyone in Chicago together with the meetup, with meetup.org, so it was because of him bringing all those people together that made it easier for me and Michael to sort of get the word out and recruit people and get them into the group. Yeah, so that I always say that Noel was like the godfather of the group, because it wasn't for him, it would have been a lot of for us to the message and meet more people.
At the center, and I thought I had to be the first bi liaison, and I met June. She was the first trans liaison, and it was fabulous. She got me in. Noel got the programming, I became the liaison, and I was the first bi liaison. And June and I used to share the same desk. It's a cubicle on the second floor. All the gays and lesbians were everywhere else, but the B and the T were at the same cubicle. That was amazing. June, oh, I love June, and it was incredible. Well, so I started the bike program. And I thought, oh, we got to take this to the streets. because every LGBT organization, there was no B consistently. So I had to start activism. I had to do something. I can't be the only bisexual flag at every event. And I thought, let's start something. So I asked a Asian bisexual woman. She was too busy, and I had to find other tokens and quotas, not just me, because there's other bisexuals than just privilege. And I asked Ed. When Ed said yes, it was incredible. To have these tokens come together, we had our first Bqac meeting. It was amazing. The room was full of all different people. It was diversity, it was inclusion, it was different languages, it was disabilities, it was abilities, it was poor, it was rich, it was incredible. And people decided, what's the name of it? First somebody suggested bisexual and queer. I'm like, oh no, some of us survived Smear the Queer. And they said, well, we're taking it back. I'm like, oh, just like I took the word bisexual back. And said, yeah, that's a good thing, let's include queer. Bisexual Queer Alliance Chicago began October 16, 2010 with the room full of diversity. And, it was the greatest love of my life and the first love of my life.
As we turn 12 years this month, there's so many different proud moments that us as an organization are proud of. We want to share those and reminisce and go back down memory lane. In this next segment, you're going to hear different stories from board members, co-founders, and members at large, and some of the different moments that they're most proud of in the organization that has allowed us to be where we're at today. Check it out.
Honestly, I didn't really start getting involved until I went to my first Celebrate Bisexuality Day.
Okay.
And it was really cool. But it was small. It was kind of small, and I remember it was up in the center in the auditorium area. Not actually in the auditorium, but it was in the. I think they had gotten the. I forget the name of these spaces now, but they had gotten that the atrium, which is when you get on the third floor. It's that area right there in the theater.
Okay.
And I kind of envisioned this whole and it was decently attended, but it was maybe 20 people, and I was you know what, I could see this here, and so I kind of started being hey, let me help organize this, and I want to build this up and make it something really cool, and so we started getting more acts, and we started doing we actually had two days, because I was you know what, we're greedy, we need as many days as possible, so I was let's do a fun day, because I think one of the ones I went to, it was kind of it was a little weird, because they did they had some fun sketches and poetry, and then some really serious combos, and then it was a social, and I was kind of this is decent, but I feel it would be fun to have some let's keep the moods a little separate, let's have something serious and then maybe something just more fun and party. So we ended up having 2 days and moved it into that kind of thing, where we did we started doing so that's how we did we did a discussion one day, then we did a party the next day, and we did that for a few years, and then and then during that period of time I was on the board, and that's when I kind of joined the board, and then we're and our big push was we should become we need to become incorporated, we need to become a 501c3, let's do that. And so that was actually a big part of what I did, was when I joined the board, that was that was our goal, that was our project, and that's what we kind of focused on. It was for me, it was okay, I've got these 3 events, I've got these 2 monthly things that I'm doing, and just building the community and doing outreach that way, and then the one thing in September. And then the Bqac stuff was focusing, and then that was focusing on the 501c3 stuff and getting our and learning how to do all that. So it was a real process. But yeah, so yeah, and then I was a regular member. I don't remember what my official thing was. That was the first year. I think it was just a member at large, and then I became vice president, and then I was president, and then I was done.
And then I came to Chicago for graduate school, and so I figured large city's gonna probably have like more niche
Organizations.
so then that's when I found Bqac, I think through the Meetup app too. And that would have been like 2014, I think.
Okay.
And I showed up and I asked the right questions. They were like, we'd never even considered because like in Kansas, a lot of my activism was laying down like roots for like an LGBT center in Wichita, Kansas specifically, and like really like spearheading like the youth group there, and so that skill set like came through. So sort of like, oh well, if you guys consider like a 501c3 certification, like this is what it does for you, and and they were just like, you're on the board now.
And then we had to go to the mayor's office on LGBTQ issues. And there was a report, the Bisexual and Disability Report. We had to get that through the mayor's office to be used as a tool in the city. And it was interesting to be there and get this subtle biphobia that, no, this is not that important. So I had to open my big mouth and I said, may I ask how many of you identify as bisexual on this LGBT board? 2 people of color raised their hand. That was fabulous. They said, well, maybe it is important because you have bisexuals on the board. So they kind of looked at each other like I was speaking a different language. Maybe I was. So then they said, well, bring back, approval from the writer of this report so we can get approval from them to use it here. And the fascinating thing was on the way there, it's a Belmont bus. And there was a homeless kid asking for money. And something was calling me to him, and I thought, I'm going to be late. I have to get this. So I got off the bus and I talked to him. He goes, yeah, I've been homeless here for a while, and it's difficult for me because I'm bisexual. Oh, it was incredible. I said, question, if I give you something to eat, would you like to be a part of history? He goes, man, I'm tired, I haven't slept in days. Maybe sleep during the meeting. It was cool. So we went and ate at Dunkin' Donuts. There was a Dunkin' Donuts in Belmont. And then we got back on the bus and we went to the mayor's office on LGBT issues. And I bought all the paperwork. Noel was there, Ed was there, Adrian was there, Paige from the 1980s was there. And even she said, we haven't made it this far. I'm like, yeah, it's our turn. And the homeless kid's falling asleep. And as I began talking, he woke up. To get the approval to use that, and him in the room, a homeless youth that was bisexual, he said, man, that was truly cool. I said, the nap you took or being in the room? He goes, both. So that was incredible.
Well,
I know.
one of the proudest ones was definitely when we all went to that meeting in at city. I think it was either at City Hall or the Cultural Center, where it was part of the LGBT Commission, where they said that yes, there's a proclamation to to your group and blah blah, to the bisexual community. So yeah, that was, because for me, I think that was our biggest thing that we did at that young age, where and we were probably about a year or 2 old when that happened. So yeah, that was huge.
Is that I feel like I've really been able to, when I inherited Bqac had been kind of on the down for a couple of years, just because, people didn't have time to invest in it. And that's not like a criticism of them. It's just kind of the system in which we live. So I feel like I was really able to put Bqac back on the map. We were really able to expand our social media efforts, which are huge, especially thanks to Becky and Julia, which are two board members. Becky's my vice president, Julia is my treasurer. We've been able to put on a lot more events, and for the past 2 years, we've consistently been providing more and more programming, which is great. We also got our grant from SCNO, which is like student consultants at Northwestern University, who, during COVID, we can't use a lot of what they suggested to us, but, once COVID is over, eventually, we'll be able to use the amazing advice they gave us to really put Bqac on just such better economic footing, because I don't think a lot of people realize that Bqac is completely volunteer run, that we have a total budget of almost $2,000, and that took us a long time to get there. And having $2,000 for an entire organization, that's not that much, especially in Chicago. So yeah. Oh, and then I guess the last thing that I'm proud of is that I really wanted to make sure that our board wasn't just representing white people, and also specifically white people from the North Side. So one of the really big things that I did immediately after taking over my position is I made sure that we actually recruited people from the South and West Sides of Chicago. Because these are communities that are historically so disinvested. And again, because the majority of BI people are people of color. And the fact that BI organizations, I know, right? And the fact that BI organizations have not always been the greatest at reaching out to our communities of color is ridiculous, to be honest. Because we are a community. We are one people. And that's another thing too I love about the bisexual community in general. It's just that we are so diverse. And I don't just mean racially. I mean racially, socioeconomically, religion-wise, immigrant status, disability. I mean, so many different things that I can think of. And that's what I think is so beautiful, is that anyone can be bi. And there are so many intersections that our community holds, which are beautiful, but can also make it a lot more difficult to engage in this kind of work.
Another proud moment is producing this video for you guys out of the labor of love for you guys. I hope that so far what you've been enjoying has been awesome and beautiful and insightful from all the different stories you've heard from both board members and members at large. So that's definitely one thing I'm most proud of.
Some of the proudest is over the summer, we were very busy with the 5 different Pride Fests that we did from Springfield to Elk Grove Village. It was made for a long, busy, fantastic summer. And then the other thing with the current climate and suppression of the LGBT community, I see Bqac as standing tall and fighting against that.
Me personally, it's been when I hear testimonials from our members, when I hear things like how Bqac has empowered them, or it's made them feel less alone or less isolated. Hearing how Bqac has given them a voice and have made them feel understood, heard, seen. How Bqac has given them a community, a sense of belonging. How Bqac has allowed them to be confident in who they are and accept themselves even when others don't do that. So, that really makes me good that what we're doing here matters. and it motivates me to continue pushing to do more and add more value to our members in the community.
Well, some of the proudest moments, basically, the org itself, has been doing more presence, had more presence through Pride Fest. Our latest one, I'm sorry, it was right here in Chicago, Pride Fest 2022. And just outside that, we did other Pride Fests in the suburbs. And the very first one that I get to partake, it was the one in Springfield, Illinois. It was the very first time that the org, Bqac, put a table with merchandise and having a presence in that festival. And that really spoke a lot to me, because having seen that many youth, teenagers, older people coming to the table and being so proud of themselves and so happy that they have a representation of us being there, because they were people from all small parts of little towns from Springfield. So that, I guess, that's one of my pride moments, to see the representation in Bqac, how much effect has in the outside Chicago. So that's my pride moment.
2020 by far was a hard year, not just nationally, locally, but also internationally. We went through the COVID-19 pandemic. 2021 found us where eventually people started getting vaccinated, and things went from in-person to virtual to hybrid in that year. But 2021, we suffered a major loss, both within the bi and queer community and community as a whole. We lost our beloved co-founder, Ed Negron, in July of 2021 at the age of 50. Ed was a huge force to be reckoned with. And we figured, all right, there's some things that we need to do to celebrate not just his life, but also in a way to mourn his death. And in doing so, we created a biannual award called the Ed Negron Legacy Award, which is given to folks who are bi, queer, people of color, and they've made an impact within our local community. Our first nominee is Adrienne McHugh, and she is the founder of Bi Social Network and executive director of Step Up for Mental Health, one of our nonprofit partners as well. We knew we needed to do more and celebrate his life, so that would spearhead us into so many different things that we've done in 2022 as of so far, celebrating our 12 years together as a community here at Bqac. There would be a street naming in May to honor his legacy. That was done by the folks at Leather 6410, who graciously, and I am honored to have Ed's old work vest, his sister Monica Rodriguez, along with Illinois State Representative Greg Harris, who ended up doing the street naming. At the 1 year mark of his death, we ended up celebrating his life by remembering him at an event at the center on Halstead, and we also did this hybrid. I showed a documentary about his life, and we had folks talk about it, and it was just wonderful. Ed, we're so glad that you were part of our history, and we wouldn't be here without you today. And you've allowed us to do so many different things here at the org because of your spirit, and it lives on with us today. So I know that was a very somber moment, Many of you are probably crying right now as you're watching this, but I figured I'd switch gears up and celebrate our 12-year anniversary together. Whether you're watching this at the Center on Halstead or at the comfort of your home via Zoom, thanks so much for being part of this celebration tonight. That spirit definitely caused us to change a lot of the things and ways we do things here at the org now. We have so many different things to be proud of, especially this year. Like, his death was a catalyst for us to change and to continue the legacy that both him and Mikey had given us over 12 years ago, back on October 16th, 2010, when they found Bqac. And the beauty of it is, not only did we have events to remember our beloved co-founder Ed, but we created new programming this year. We ended up creating Bi Women's Group, which is a discussion group specifically for a fab community. We did Queer Book Club with our lovely host, Diva Exit Lamore. As a matter of fact, Diva has something to share, so I'm going to let her share.
To be honest, October 16th, 2010, Mikey and Ed Negron were co-founders of Bisexual Queer Line Chicago, and I just made this 12-year candle because in the trailer parks we just got a dollar store. So I just wanted to light it and sing happy anniversary to you, happy anniversary to you, happy anniversary Bisexual Queer Line Chicago, Queer Book Club. Okay, happy anniversary to you.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Diva, for that. I appreciate it. Continuing, though, on with our programming, we also created a YouTube channel this year, both to showcase our events, and eventually we're working on different topics that we want to share as a resource to our community through YouTube. One of our awesome members, AJ, they were able to create a Discord server channel for us here at Bqac, and that's created a community within its own. There's just so many different things that we're proud of here at Bqac as we celebrate and reminisce these 12 years. I want to thank you for watching this documentary wherever you're at and celebrating with us. We're just getting started. We're ever evolving. We're continuing to be inclusive of all folks on the spectrum, whether you're bi, queer, trans. We welcome all to our table. And I want to thank you for being here tonight on behalf of the board of directors and allowing you to see what I've created just in the last 2 years. This labor of love for an awesome org that's helped me within my own identity and countless others. This is for Ed. This is for June. This is for everybody that we've lost. And this is for you. So cheers. Cheers to 12 years. Let's keep on going. We're just getting started and we've scratched the surface. But thank you so much for being here tonight, or wherever you're watching this documentary, even if it's not tonight. But thank you. Happy anniversary, Bqac, with love, from Auggie and the rest of us. Cheers.
real good.